Hello. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to what is proving to be an exciting stream about business models. And here I thought we would, for once, escape from robots, but it doesn't seem we will. We will continue a bit with the theme of robots, terminators, and virtual delivery centers as new operating models. I would like to ask to the stage Miroslaw Bartecki, Chief Architect of Capgemini Business Services Poland, to do the magic. Thank you.
Please imagine a world owned and ruled by Terminator. A world in which robots can create a robot. Autonomous intelligence doesn't care about the people. Some of you will say this world will never come. In contrast, please imagine a world owned by Wall-E. Some of you will recall a childhood, others some feelings. For most of us, Wall-E will be a synonym of feelings, senses, and humanity. It's all about being human, to feel and sense. My name is Miroslaw Bartecki. I am a Chief Architect of Capgemini Business Services. My role today is to present you Capgemini vision of artificial intelligence in business world. So, what is world today? For me personally, it's a world driven by technology. Undoubtedly, in Poland, we can expect more opinions than people in this room to that question. So, let's analyze a market and trends on it a little. Two big, most recognized companies are investing millions in three key technologies. Amazon and Google are spending a lot of money on artificial intelligence, speech recognition, and deep learning. Let's take an example. What deep learning is and how it works. To recognize that on the picture there is a cat or dog, Google needs to analyze 2 billion of pictures to teach the network to do that. As an alternative, we can do the things like startups do. Use machine learning to that. With a couple of thousands samples, you can do the same. Unfortunately, the result will be much worse. Right now, the voice recognition is on hype. Those giants which I mentioned are also investing in artificial intelligence algorithms which are supporting the voice recognition to fix vocabulary mistakes. They are so good that they can even understand my Polish accent. And the key stream, or main focus right now, is the artificial intelligence adoption in business. We can take as example the other market, like car manufacturing. The driverless cars are heavily using this artificial intelligence in there. You can't just develop the software with some statements like if, then, when the accident on the road is met. That's why you will need the artificial intelligence to help you with that job. So let's analyze what does it mean for business. Why do we need artificial intelligence in business? For Capgemini, artificial intelligence is heavily used in our intelligent automation. That we are taking what's the best from artificial intelligence to deliver the best productivity on our services. Why I'm stating that? We measured and take the experience from past deployments that in the era of business transformation, before we deployed the intelligent automation, it was 35% to reach about productivity in some processes like P2P or cash collection or others. Right now, in automation era, with intelligent automation deployed, we can get 65% of productivity. You can ask, why not 100%? And the question is valid, but in my opinion, I don't think we are in the era of Skynet, Terminator, or Wall-E. And this 35% still will be given to the people to do the exception handling and complex processes. Like it was told today by John Bell, my colleague from Capgemini, we believe that intelligent automation has 5 senses. Interact is about talking to the machines using chatbots, voice bots, and other supported communication technologies. Monitor is to check what's happening in the business. We are doing that by monitoring the business logs and Internet of Things. We know right now what's happening at any point of time. Knowledge is the sense which takes what's in people's heads. You no longer need to know everything. You need to know how to find the answer. We are giving the answer to the people by voice assistant and cognitive tools. You can relate that to the Google situation. Most of us is using Google when we know that we have to find something quickly. We are approaching the same. Service is the sense what we all do and love. We are simply saying doing more for less with focus on the robotic process automation, which is the main driver right now. Analyze will tell us something what we don't know. We no longer have to find what's happening in the business now. We're making this using big data and machine learning. Because we have now those data in one place, we can do the things like we have never been before. We are combining those senses and technologies to lead a change of the business. And we are making that with a construct called Virtual Delivery Center. Let's overview shortly what VDC is. It's an innovative solution that brings together technologies, skills, and processes into industrialized, scalable way to deliver automated solution for our clients. The biggest issue right now on the market is to find the right people to the right job. We addressed that issue by using academy idea. You know that right now the market is the employee market. We are making sure that our employees are trained in practice based on the experience and certified to deliver the project in the best way. We created a factory and equipped factory to do the implementation, rollout and operation with tools like predictive analysis, deep learning or voice recognition that they are able right now to deliver what client demands, not what we think will be the best. We've taken and created the design authority, and this entity takes care that they will use the best practices, the known design patterns, and what we've taken from experience to design the future shape of the solution. And on the end, we are making sure that our solutions are with the best quality by pushing the quality control on each stage of our virtual delivery center deployment. That right now, not only we, but client can monitor and check using those tools what's happening and if that fits to the requirements. Why we think that this contract is perfect or works for our clients? And I can say we drink own champagne. We implemented this solution at first stage for Capgemini Business Services successfully. That means we are the best example that this works for other clients too. And that brings us to the question, is this VDC concept an industrialized virtual workforce? If we wanted to deal with the robots, we have to move to the virtual workforce. And the answer again is yes. We are doing that by the concept in which traditional workshops with a client have gone into the past. We are organizing right now accelerated solution environment. It's the place when we can bring the people, methods, tools, and client representatives in one place to shape and decide that overall target for our solution will be agreed from both sides in short term. In a couple of days, we can produce what was taken in the past couple of weeks. We are creating digital operating model to assess client maturity level from intelligent automation perspective. And by that, we can say that we are slightly moving to operating model, which we base that on DevOps concept. We are using the method of one-stop shop to control all of the assets, including software and hardware, in one place for virtual delivery center ecosystem. To make that speech more tangible and stick to the real world, I will demonstrate you with a live demo how virtual delivery center talks with people. Alexa, Ask VDC to create fully provisioned environment.
What can I add for you?
Alexa, ask VDC to create
What
fully...
can I add for you?
Alexa, stop. Alexa, ask VDC to create fully automated environment. Alexa, ask VDC to create fully automated environment.
I don't know that.
Like you see, technology doesn't work sometimes. Alexa, ask VDC to provision fully automated environment.
Hello, boss. Do you really want to do this in front of all these people? You know the best that sometimes this provisioning doesn't work.
Yes, please.
What size of robotic process automation ecosystem do you want?
The biggest one.
Provisioning has been started. Robot identifier is 974238. Do you want some amazing coffee?
Yes, please. Alexa, turn on coffee maker.
Okay.
Thank you, Alexa. You will see shortly that coffee will flow. It takes time. And the start of the recognition confirms that the environment and the noise have matters. Additionally, if someone of you wants to see what was created underneath, because underneath was created the fully automated robots, robotic process automation robot, with all of the software required to do the right job, please come to our booth. I will show you or demonstrate on the laptop what's there. So, what is the word today? For Capgemini, it's the word with 5 senses, with a human in it, supported by technology and care like Wally had. To summarize that for us, the intelligent automation we are using for transaction processing, deliver it at scale to our clients with people to solve complex cases. My name is Miroslaw Bartecki, and it was a pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you.
Alexa, introduce the next panel. Oh, doesn't work it. Doesn't work it. Wow. Thank you very much for a glimpse into the future, and I hope you don't mind if I ask everyone not to imagine a world of Terminators, right? Rather, hopefully, a world of Alexa making coffee for us. So before we go into the last panel discussion on corporation and startups, there will be a small word from a partner of today's conference, Monopolies.
like to remind you about Business Card Lottery. The main award in our lottery is an urban and stylish bicycle with wooden elements designed especially for monopolies. If you would like to have a chance of winning it, just put your business card in the ballot box right at the monopolies display stand. The draw and handing over the award will take place before ABSL Startup Challenge at 14th of June.
Great. I won one bicycle on day 0. I'm not stopping. I'm going for the second one. So challenge. Okay, to finish the stream, we will talk about something that is inevitable in the world of innovation, which is a cooperation between corporations and startups, how to make it work. The panel will be led, and I would like to invite to the stage Janusz Dziurzyński, Associate Vice President, Procter & Gamble Global Business Services. Oof. David Hughes, Independent Expert. Michał Kramasz, Head of Startups at Google Poland. Zuzanna Mikołajczyk, Commercial and Marketing Director, Mikomax Smart Office. And Agnieszka Sygitowicz, Vice President, Łódź Special Economic Zone. Thank you.
Please come over. It seems like Alexa, all the speakers scared half of the audience. But whoever stayed is going to be very pleased, I promise. All right, it's still morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to have this panel. You are handpicked, do you realize?
Yes, boss.
Wonderful. So we're going to talk about startups. We're going to talk about how big business and startups can work together. Can work together. What kind of traps and tricks you can give the audience and everybody. This is an interesting. Now the light is gone. No, the light is back. This is an interesting topic, and you come from completely different environment. Agnieszka, you are heading the Łódź Special Economic Zone. And you came up with this idea of posting for ABSL Spark, for the startup Spark, and this is what you run in Łódzka Strefa Ekonomiczna. Michał, you are the boss of something called SEED, which is an amazing acronym for startup, export, entrepreneurs and delivery. Yeah, we have Mikomax, so the person who is providing all the fancy co-working space with the startups, so a completely different angle, right? And we have David. David, who are you? You are an independent expert. It's very scary.
It should be, especially from a Brit. I spent 20 years at Procter & Gamble, so he and I know each other fairly well. Then I did 3 years at Heinz, and I ran a volunteer program for the London Olympics, and then I did some work for the government leading up to us coming back to Poland a year ago. So I have a kind of view of big business and a little bit of entrepreneur.
Why don't we start with you? Connect two words for me, Brexit and startups.
Oh my God. I missed the dinner last night and I missed Cameron's speech, but the Times this morning are talking a little bit about some of what he said. We live in interesting times, all right? We've just had a general election. The Prime Minister called it because she believed she was going to get a greater mandate. What happened is a lot of young people who had not voted at the Brexit referendum suddenly came out and voted and gave her a bloody nose. And frankly, it's young people that are driving the change and the agenda that we see all around us. And I would say, generally, it's young people who are most involved in startup projects, and it's young people who are mostly changing the sort of business that you and I know and love so well. And if big business don't start to understand the change that's going on around them, they'll also get a bloody nose.
Sounds scary, right?
Well, I think it can be scary, or I think, as ever, you look at these things as an opportunity.
Here we go. Agnieszka, what kind of opportunity you foreseen for Łódzka Strefa Ekonomiczna, so Łódź Special Economic Zone? Why on earth did you come up with the idea of complete reformulation of Special Economic Zone? Because what you try to do right now is something what you didn't do over the last few years.
No, we didn't. Hello, everybody. Right, yeah, we just open a new direction of our activities because our main point is of course to develop entrepreneurship and the economy of the region and to influence of the economy of our country, which we do. And because the world is changing, we are living, like David said, in interesting times. We have new business model, startups developing and becoming great, bringing to the market great value. So that's why we decided having a portfolio of trusted clients, big corporations, also open at the one side to startups and help them to become trusted partner for business partner for corporates. In Poland, not very common situation.
Indeed.
Yeah, so that's why we decided to be a middleman, the translator between the startup environment and the corporates, having trust from big companies and building our trust from startups as well on this new direction. Hopefully, this all will bring us to the more and more sustainable development on the economy, open innovation to corporates, and big business assets to the startups who are on the very beginning of their entrepreneurial way.
Very brave mission. Procter & Gamble decided to be one of the partners, one of the key partners.
And thank you for that.
How would you rate your skill set before you entered the program? How much did you know about the startups in the scale from 0, in the scale from 1 to 10?
Well, me personally, I was like about 3 because I had some experience about the young entrepreneurs in the times that in Poland nobody knows what is startup actually. And the zone, as you mentioned, we didn't have such direction, such way of working. That's a completely new thing. But at the very beginning, we find 5 partners. PG was one of the first. Actually, you were the first partner of the Startup Spark. We have also Vielton and Albea, French company, and PGE as well lately. So we have 5 very, very great partners to do this business, to do matchmaking with startups. And we are now testing a few models of this cooperation. We have in the middle of the first round of our Startup Spark program. Very interesting. And
yes, we are getting into acceleration. We're going to come back to that.
Right.
Michał, why don't you challenge a little bit? You are an expert on working with startups. You can explain a little bit what the seed is. And let's see what you're going to say about the need and necessity of having the middleman between the startups and the big corporations, or a middle woman.
Okay, good morning. Basically, Google does a lot of different things with startups. To some extent, we still try to behave like a startup. The company is not so old as you might expect. But basically, there are like 3 main elements that are happening in Poland in terms of cooperation with startups. There's the Warsaw-based initiative called Campus Warsaw, which basically creates the place, both co-working space, but also the connection space between startups, between investors, between mentors. There's the so-called developer relations, which the team that works on helping developers in many aspects in creating the product, but also in marketing, in all the elements. And there's the third element, the seed team, the startup expert development team, which I'm heading, which basically tries to help on the analytical, but also on market potential and scaling the business. So basically we do the so-called due diligence of the startup, taking a look what's happening in the startup, is there potential in terms of people, business, and we try to support them with knowledge that can help them grow and scale. So basically try to make them international stars, not only the local.
Many options,
local
many paths to go. That sounds quite confusing. Which one of you would you recommend for the folks to start it for the first time?
Well, it depends basically on the stage of the business. So definitely the very early stage when there is an idea, or even there is no yet an idea, but there's a will to do it, the Campus Warsaw is the place to start. Both from the point of view of getting the knowledge, but also meeting interesting people to start the business with, but also to learn from. After this, after scaling, after building the minimum viable product, after doing that, the business starts operate. Then the seed team is the team that tries to scale it globally. Yeah, so basically we focus then on heavily analytics, on finding the potential on the market, on directing towards which market should be used, and how to count the lifetime value of the user that is using the product. Yeah.
All right, Zuzanna. Furniture and startup?
Sorry, I don't know why, but here the sound is not so well.
It's a bit weird.
This is the same for us. Can we try to do something with the
sound?
sound?
I'm sorry, but I didn't hear well the question, so I don't want to
No,
answer
the question was
something.
rather simple. These were two words, the furniture and startup.
Ah, okay, furniture and startup.
It's a bit provocative.
I think I have to a little bit say what Michał said about depending on the stage of the startup. So at the beginning, probably IKEA is the top choice. Or something from your home, so nothing fancy, nothing, let's say, very professional. However, afterwards, they figure out that they need a little bit more, that they are not just here for, I don't know, 1 month, half a year, and they start to invest in this part. Some of them, probably majority, they go for co-working spaces, so where they can have very good facilities at the reasonable price. In Poland, actually, the co-working spaces are not so good. They're not professional. They're usually not furnished well. However, in Western Europe, we can see, of course, everyone knows WeWork or other, let's say, big brands.
How important is this? Are you trying to say that innovation is not possible without a fancy co-working space?
No, I think co-working, I attended co-working Europe this year, and what the real co-working people are saying is that this is community. For them, this is the most important. Other things like when it is happening, how it is happening, doesn't matter. For them, it's community. So even at that conference was, one of the topic was working with multinationals. And honestly, they are afraid that they are going to lose their identity of this community. So I think what co-working can bring, whether it's with startups, corporations, is this openness and freshness. So if you're, I don't know, going for conferences and you're listening all the time the same thing, I don't think you're going to come up with a new idea. But if you go for a totally different conference, I don't know, healthcare, whatever, then you can see something which is totally different. And I think this is what co-working can bring, because if you are a corporation, you're a huge company, it may happen that a lot of people actually, they don't have any contact with outside world. So they're listening all the time, everything what is in the corporation, which is good because this is your strategy. But at the same time, maybe they're losing a little bit touch with the outside world.
Okay, this is first round. Think about questions. I would like to be very open, and if you in the audience will have a question that at some point of time, please raise your hands and I will come back to you. We will find a technical way to make sure your question is asked. David, Zuzanna asked about, she mentioned multinationals, big corporations. We hear often that we love to fail. The whole thing is not about the business value. We know it's going to fail. Everything we go for is learning. Is it true?
I'm trying hard not to smile. I think one of the things that you know that you will learn through the work that you're doing with the Whoosh Startup Spark is you have to mean it. You have to mean it. And
tell us more. Have to mean it.
Well, I mean, look. I think there's a truism. If I came back and worked at P&G now, I'm not sure too much would have changed 17 years on. So I would hear the same things. What I think this gives you the chance to do is say, if you have defined the issue or the need well enough, you have given that to the startup or startups against a framework that allows you to work in a totally different way and take all of that learning, but accept that maybe 50% or only 10% will actually come through. Get on and run the rest of your business. And let them do what they've got to do.
Is this the most difficult thing, to let it go?
I don't know if it's the most difficult thing. It might be for P&G, but I think it's one of the challenges you've got. I think you've also got to be careful you don't overburden the startup with all of your processes and ways of working and systems that again will dilute the effect that you're going to have. But equally, they've got to learn some stuff from you too, right?
Do they learn stuff from us?
They learn?
Do they learn from us?
Of course they do, because it's of course completely different model. But I think that the greatest asset of startups is the ideas, the way of introducing the ideas and implementing the products or services they invented. And the great asset of corporations is the business models, structure, which is also quite important, even though every startup here will kill me for that, but you know, it's needed, it's necessary in the business, and it's market and clients. So these two worlds are very good to be matched. And at the same time very difficult for us as well. We are testing many ways of doing that. For example, at the beginning with our team, which are experienced people, because we haven't been very experienced at the beginning, but when we do something we try to do this well. So we hired experienced people for that. And we thought that we will be venture builders of startups with corporations and matchmaking them and so on. And now we know that, of course, in some of our startups in our garage we can do that. In some it's just scouting, because they are more mature, more just fit to the needs of our partners. And what we have to do with them is to help them to work in a business environment, with sale, with development and so on. And with some of the startups which we do the venture building model, of course we work on the product or service to fit it to the corporate needs. So the models are very different, and of course we are struggling with the very everyday problems like, you know, taxes, paperwork, and completely different way of thinking. But what is very important for us is to build the trust and to be supportive for both sides, for the corporations from one level, because
And what was the most difficult as you looked, you were playing this matchmaker between two worlds in the first round of recruitment? What was the most difficult aspect of that?
At the beginning, for us it was to convince corporation, our partners, that we announce that we are, you know, doing something new. We have our offer, spread it on the possibility to cooperate with startups, and there was difficulty to convince the big companies that it is something valuable for them. Of course not everybody, because with P&G we didn't have such problem, but we are experienced on that level. Many even international corporations working in Poland, it's not very experienced on that, and not very often seeing the value that startups can bring, and they are afraid of the completely different way of thinking that David mentioned. From the corporation and from the startups, actually, well, for us in our company it was difficult to get used to their way of working. So we are also, you know, governmental agencies, so structured. We have our way of procedures and so on, and it was completely not understandable by those people. But it also put a little, you know, a little bit of fresh air to our company.
I remember coming to Łódzka Strefa for the first time, and I saw this fancy little building near the lake, and you said this is going to be co-working space. Does it work?
Well, it's working. It's working because our startups from the first round, they are meeting them. there. We have some space for them to use to everyday work. They have meetings with our mentors. It's still working, but they are, sneaking, going to our headquarters and completely, destroy my calendar, my agenda for every day because,
you are not used to this way of work yourself, right?
More structured, but I'm very, very pleased about that. I'm very pleased about that because we really do need thinking outside the box, even if we are, business fit.
Zuzanna, why is it so important for startups? They hammer down this message, give us this space. No, we want to have hammocks here. We want to have this, we want to have that. Why is it so important for them? Why do they pay so much attention? Sometimes for big corporations, it's a little bit annoying.
That they want so fancy things? I don't know, probably the best question for them. Probably they want something different. Probably they want to, if you are young, you're putting, strange shoes, some t-shirts because you want to be different. You want to show everyone that you're not corporate. So I think it's it's the way to show that we are not like them. We are different. We are more cool, more relaxed. I think it's also about, let's say, relax and having open mind, not being so rigid with the rules, procedures. So the space, I think, shows that they are totally flexible, totally open. There is no structure in a positive way. They just want to do the things they do, and they want to do it well. So they don't want to think about, oh my God, because the politics in the company is like this, I have to act like this, I have to be here, because if I'm not here, what people will say. So honestly, probably I cannot say it loudly, but they don't give a what. So they just enjoy what they do. And I think probably some of the corporate people are quite jealous because they see people who are really, really happy what they are doing. I mean, there are no barriers for them. And I think it's also inspiring for many people just to see this pure joy. I mean, as the Startup Challenge last year was, I was totally amazed. You see these young people who are having amazing ideas, the stories behind. One of the story I remember, I think almost everyone was crying. And I think everyone feels this connection from on the human level. And I think this is what startups are bringing. A little bit more human, less structure, less politics. Everything what you're spending so much time in the company, bringing no value, they're just enjoying.
And in 2 hours from now, in fact, on this stage, we're going to have a great finale of the second edition of the ABSL Startup Challenge. So fasten your seatbelts. We are looking forward to this. Michał, two things that you would say are absolutely critical for the corporations to consider and to have in mind, like seriously, and two things on the startup side, from your experience.
So first, I think I'm going to come back a bit to what you were saying. Basically, what are startups characterized by? So basically, it's supposed to be innovation. Yeah? And innovation is not an event. Yeah? It's a process. It's a way of thinking, way of living, way of approaching the problems. And I think one of the elements that, for example, startups strive for, nice co-working spaces and all the things, is that you don't get your best ideas in the office. Basically, there's a lot of research, especially from American universities, that claims that the best ideas you don't get by your desk. By the way, where do you get your best ideas?
Under shower?
Yeah, exactly. That's why maybe in a lot of the offices and co-working space you can find showers. But basically the thing is that change of the mindset in terms of not sitting in front of your desk and having to do a task, but a lot of more freedom, a lot of more approach towards doing a job during your life, not living for the job itself, creates a little difference, but a huge difference in terms of outcomes. So basically that's in my perception one thing. In terms of corporations and in terms of startups, we started from Terminator here on the previous presentation, and I would like to use another movie. You probably all know Matrix. And then at some point there's the approach about the system and Neo, so the main person, where we can treat a bit Neo like a startup and Matrix as a corporation. And there's the saying, don't try to bend the spoon, bend yourself. So I would say both corporations need to bend themselves a bit towards startups, but also startups need to bend themselves toward corporations. And then when there's this bond of understanding each other, then it's a lot easier for corporations. I mean, startup needs to understand that corporation might have some rules because somebody has the boss somewhere. But on the other hand, corporation needs to understand that the biggest approach that startup can give is the freedom of thinking and freedom of innovation. And then if we try to meet in the midpoint, then it's a lot easier in terms of building the stars.
Very interesting. David, we talked about flexibility many times. What does it mean in terms of what Michał just talked about? Flexibility on the startup side and flexibility on the big corporation side.
Well, no, I think he's covered it really well. A lot of it's in the culture and the mindset and a willingness to want to make it work. I don't know how important this is, but you were talking about going back to, or connecting dots or making connections and looking for new ideas. If I just go to something else I worked on, the volunteer program, very often people would say to you, well, how many volunteers do you need? And they would start with a number. And actually what you have to do is start with the need itself. So where are you actually going to place those volunteers to give them the sort of experience that you want them to have so that they will continue to volunteer? And I suspect one of the tricks for us as we think about integrating startups with the big business is spending the time that we need to identify the need or the issue that we then want these people to sit in really funky places, to idea generate, to think outside of the box, to say, those are some options. If we're going to reinvent the diaper, this is what that reinvention could look like. If we're going to do a next generation of shaving blades that doesn't look anything like today, that's, right? If that's what the need is.
I can certainly relate to that. We have pretty much experience with doing different paths, different routes. We explore pretty much all of the ones that Michał was talking about. One of the most difficult things indeed is to be very clear about the business opportunity you want to create. Michał, would you agree?
Yeah, so basically I think that both a startup and a corporation has some idea of how it should go, yeah, and the mindset, where do you want to get. But the case that the corporation might think might be a bit different than the startup, yeah. We've met with, I don't think tens, but hundreds of different startups working with our team throughout last 2.5 years. And basically there's not one set of structure, idea and approach in any of the startups. Yeah? So if you would try to draw a pattern how startups should proceed and what should happen, it's going to be a completely different things across different brands, across different industries, across different approaches and things. Yeah? Some of the creators will be looking for money, yeah? In terms of, okay, I need this amount of investment to go to this point. Some will look for the so-called smart money. Yeah? So I need a person to guide me throughout the different problems of the world. But some will, for example, look for data. We often have a situation, especially with the businesses that are purely digital, that the biggest thing we can give them is data. Data beats opinion, basically. That's the approach that Google has. And often, if, for example, there's an interesting business and we think about global expansion, we simply say, okay, take a look at what users are looking across the world and think about the markets that maybe are not the closest towards you with your product, although they might seem the most interesting, but think about the markets that create you the biggest opportunity. Yeah? And at some point it appears that for apparel startup creating, I don't know, a marketplace or something, the best choice is not to go straight away to Germany, which is very highly competitive, very expensive market, although with a, let's call it a deeper pockets in terms of customers, but it might be a market a bit further away, but with a huge potential of growth and very fastly expanding. Yeah? So I would take the approach that you have to make a tailor-made approach towards both, from the point of view of the startup towards the corporation you start to work with. Probably it's going to be a bit different with PGE and P&G in terms of cooperating and taking the approach.
Completely different approaches.
Yeah, but on the other way around, you have to take a tailor-made approach towards the startup. Yeah? It would rather be the quantity, not the quality of the businesses you work with. Yeah?
Exciting. Do we have any question from the audience? Yes, there is one.
My name is Michał Lejkowski. I have a question related with startups. What's particularly a corporation can learn from startups?
To any particular panelist or up in the air?
Up in the air.
Up in the air.
Well, I can say from our experience, well, of course, the corporation can put some open innovation channel to their organization. Of course, the corporations are innovative, but a completely different way than the startups are. And if the corporations like P&G can see something, some value in this cooperation, we decided to be someone who can moderate somehow and help with this cooperation. But if business can see value, that means that the value is there. So it's different way of working, different way of thinking, and different way of solving problems. That's the main things that pointed not only P&G but also our other partners that they can learn, and why they can use cooperation with startups, not necessarily the cooperation in terms of buying the startups, but being a business partner, just the external innovation channel.
Super. Hope this is a good answer. Yes. We are nodding. We have a few minutes to go before I invite you to the startup finale. Yes? There was one more question. Do we have time? Let's try to squeeze it.
Thank you. I'm Odette from Mindspace. We're a global co-working provider with successful communities in Berlin and in Israel. And we found that co-working works a bit differently in each specific market, and that you have to tailor co-working to the local culture in a sense. Yes, there's sharing in community and bringing together enterprises and startups, and that always works, as you kindly suggested, but there's always a need to adapt to the local culture. And my question is, as we're opening our first co-working space in Hala Koshiki in Warsaw, is how should we adapt to the Polish culture? What is important for Polish entrepreneurs and enterprises for innovation?
It's a very interesting question. Zuza, you want to pick it up?
I think, because I don't have my glasses, but I thought that you were looking at me, so I will answer. Actually, what usually people are thinking about co-working, I mean, you will know it best because usually it's shown on the pictures. You have a lot of open spaces, like everyone is common space, etc., etc. However, at the end, because we did a co-working space here in Łódź of Piotrkowska, I hope that you visited it. I'm sorry, because I'm from Łódź, so I'm a patriot. We figure out with OPG, who is the developer of the place, that okay, there has to be a common space, but a lot of the startups, they want to have their own little spaces, closed ones. So even if you see on the pictures all of the fancy places, nice as a common, apparently 80% of the co-working space should be still closed. I know another project which didn't finalize in Warsaw, but they did the same study, that fine, we want to have a common space, but I think this is something about the culture in Poland. We still want to keep our ideas, close to us, because we don't know whether someone is not going to take it, or maybe they will look or something. So I think a good balance between open and closed, but closed in a sense that is still flexible, because you never know how many people they were going to be. So I wouldn't suggest totally open space.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I would love to continue. I have like zillion more questions, and I'm sure we could continue for a long time. But Agnieszka, Zuza, Michał, and David, thank you so much, and invite all of you to participate and actively clap and vote for the best startups that will present themselves in the great finale in just about 2 hours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Janusz, as well, for great questions. Thank you very much for the panel. So now a short coffee break and then an exciting finish to the conference with Marcin Gortat and, as Janusz already mentioned, ABSL Startup Challenge Edition 2 final. Thank you very much.
brings the vision to the company. Mateusz and Diego work on innovations. Justyna cares about social responsibility. Petra and Malvina shape the future. Karolina appreciates flexibility. Magda can change the world. Alexandra just loves comfort. Przemek is connected to the place. We care about responsible spaces the same way our clients care about employees. We're contributing to building a sustainable future. Thanks to our innovative approach, we evolve innovative minds. Dynamics and flexibility of development create a space to enjoy the journey, not just destination. Skanska, shape of the future.